Okay, that's good to know. So we could run class that way too until they build us a official one. Okay. Well, whenever you're ready, so you can just pretend that I'm your DPE and you got kind of a softball. I must like you because I gave you S turns across a road. And just looking for how you would teach that to a new pilot before you headed out to the jump in the plane.
Okay. Am I good to go?
Good to go.
Alright, well, we're going to learn about S-turns. The purpose of S-turns is to demonstrate the effects of wind and how it affects our airplane, making turns, basically.
Okay.
So, before we enter an S-turn, there's always a few things we need to do to kind of set up the airplane and make sure we're performing this maneuver in a safe manner. We go by the SCRAG checklist. So, we're going to basically clear the area, make sure that there's no airplanes next to us or anything, so we do this maneuver as safely as possible. We're going to flip on our lights so we're more visible and make sure that we have our fuel tank on the proper fuel tank. We're not going to run ourselves out of fuel during this. We also turn the fuel pump on in the Sport Cruiser. There are pre-maneuver checklists. I'm sure you've seen them, so we're going to just follow that before we enter this maneuver.
Good.
As far as setup goes for the S-turn, it's fairly straightforward. Before doing this maneuver, descend down to 800 feet. The safe altitude of doing this is 600 to 1,000 feet, so we just split the difference right in the middle at 800 feet, so we give ourselves a little bit of buffer room. We're going to find a reference line, just a straight road or maybe a straight field, the edge of a field. We're going to set up so we enter on a downwind. So our wind's going to be perpendicular to the road.
Perfect.
Very simple. We need to maintain our altitude as well as our airspeed. I like to enter at around 85 knots below maneuvering speed. There's no point to go super fast or super slow during this maneuver, so 85, 90 knots, whichever you feel comfortable with, that's acceptable, but we just have to maintain plus or minus 10 knots throughout the duration of this maneuver. So we're going to enter on downwind, like I said. Make sure you're not setting up, before I continue, sorry, make sure you're not setting up where there's like a big water tower or something, or over a super rural area. Just be smart about it. So you're going to set up on a downwind, you're going to cross your road. Yeah, that'd be nice. Our reference line is going to be right here. So the wind's blowing that direction, and we're going to set up with the wind. We're flying with the wind, and when we cross the road, our wings are going to be completely level. We're going to plan ahead through this maneuver, and we know that if we have a stronger wind, this bank is going to be steeper because the wind is pushing us away from our reference line. So we need to make a little bit steeper of a bank at this point of the turn. Coordination is important through this maneuver. We don't want to get uncoordinated and stall the airplane. So just make sure you're using the rudders for coordination. For orientation and division of attention, we're VFR pilots. This is an outside reference maneuver. You're looking outside of the plane 80% of the time, 20% on the inside, just verifying that you're at the proper altitude and you're at the proper airspeed. But you're going to become a better pilot if you're looking out of the plane.
Good, but I do like that emphasis on the airspeed, like it's the division of attention, just in timeout mode here. This really saves your butt as a flight instructor if your students can divide attention, because they'll get so preoccupied with the airport that they'll let their airspeed get too slow on like downwind to base to final. And it's like, okay, you need to divide your attention. So I love that you emphasized airspeed and altitude, and most of the time outside, but come back inside. That's equally important.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks for the feedback.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we're going to start that first
Just trying to keep you alive, because it's like the 20th time that somebody gets their nose up there, you're like, okay, I got to spend a little bit more time on ground reference maneuvers, because everybody's forgetting about airspeed and altitude while they're so distracted with the outside thing here. So, yep.
Okay. So we're going to make that first bank steepest because the wind is blowing us away. And then as we kind of get parallel with our road, we're going to slowly shallow that turn out, just because that's the effects that the wind has on the plane during this maneuver. And the purpose, or the goal, I guess I should say, of this maneuver is to make two perfect semicircles of equal distance on each side of the road. So just kind of eyeball it. I mean, there's no way of exactly knowing, but it's pretty easy to eyeball this maneuver. So you're just going to shallow out. When you cross, you're going to be going upwind, obviously, wings level once again, and then that first turn is gonna be shallow, so it's gonna be the reverse of that. That first semicircle is gonna be shallow to steep, and just because that's how the wind has the effect on an airplane. And just remember, altitude is important. If you go below 100 feet, you're gonna fail. If you go above 100 feet, you're gonna fail. Airspeed's also important throughout this maneuver. If you get a little slow, it's no shame in bumping in that power a little bit, or if you're high, push the yoke forward, descend, or the stick, sorry. Push the stick forward, descend a little bit. Just make those corrections. They're very minor. I mean, you really shouldn't get too far off doing this maneuver.
On that point, what if you said something like, if you notice your airspeed's low, double check your altitude because you might have climbed. If it turns out your altitude's fine, then increase your power, because most likely the reason they're going to be airspeeds changing is a climb or a descent.
Yeah, that's actually, no, I would absolutely say that, especially if you're teaching a new pilot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like super simple stuff that
Mm-hmm.
they understand how the physics work, but making
Yes.
making a note of that would probably help them a lot. So yeah, you're high, you're probably slow.
And I remember being in that stage myself when I was trying to figure out how to fly an airplane that first 20 hours, just thinking like, okay, pitch, airspeed, got it. Like, it's so dumb to us, but to them, if you can remember that 0 to 20 time, it's like these are just so critically important to them. It's like as a little 5-year-old trying to ride your bike around traffic cones.
Okay, before I wrap up this maneuver, a couple common errors. I feel like a lot of times for these maneuver lessons, people bust on just entry.
Mm-hmm.
They literally just set it up wrong. So make sure you know which way your winds are going, and if your winds are changing, tell the examiner, tell the instructor you're with, hey, I'm gonna bug our winds east, okay, and we're gonna enter this maneuver heading east. And then just bug the winds, make sure you enter on a downwind, and then you exit also on a downwind. Obviously, division of attention is another common error. Make sure you don't get high, make sure you don't get slow. You're looking outside as well as inside at the airspeed indicator.
Mm-hmm.
And improper wind correction drift would cause big circle and then a small circle. So you're trying to make them symmetrical, and that comes back to basically judging your winds properly. So that is S turns across the road. Very straightforward maneuver, but I mean, it really helps you become a good pilot.
Good, nice conclusion. I really like on your, when you were kind of recapping it the last, you just kind of gave 3 or 4 main finer points and didn't reteach the whole thing. And then again, kind of on your conclusion, you just like restated your objective without redoing the whole thing or bringing in new information. So nice, tight, solid maneuver lesson. How did you guys feel he did? And this is our chance to see if there's anything at all we could do. The plane and the standardization manual seems to do the trick. I don't know that you need a video. I don't know that you need a picture. Of course,
feel
if you
like this
had
is
that,
the
it'd be
picture,
fun.
though.
Yeah,
Like-
it is.
I mean, or drawing it is the
Uh-huh.
picture.
Mm-hmm. Yep, all very good.